Will is an underachieving student at a famous magic institution, but he makes up for it by using a sword to take down his adversaries because he's devoid of magic. During a class lecture, Professor Edward explains how to create fire magic using catalyst and magic. Since Viol is the only student there, he calls on Will to do the experiment, despite the fact that Viol cannot use magic. He does it out of extreme hatred. But Will is unable to resist his commands. As a result, if he approaches the front of the class and tries to cast the spell, but as is always the case, nothing occurs, thus the entire class don't take long to make fun of him for his constant mistakes. Edward encourages everyone to relax. He simply wants to personally chastise Will for being unable to cast such a simple spell. Edward hates Will because he thinks he can attend magic school without any magic. Even though Will is brilliant in magical theory and has no magical skill at all, while Edward isn't worried about Will's safety at all, it would still be sad for his record if his student burned to death, so he asks Sherlyn to not do reckless things like that in the future. One of his students casts the fire spell from his seat to make the catalyst in front of Will. Sherlyn is sorry. Edward ends the experiment and starts a speech about how magic is supreme in this world, that people who lack talent for it have no right to exist in this magic academy. Edward makes direct eye contact with Will and says he was just trying to help a little since Will is obviously not going to be able to do the demonstration. Will is worn out from all the vitriol he's been receiving after class, but others love picking on him. So Chianen follows him out to keep teasing Will. Luckily, Coletta rushes to Will's rescue and finds that there are still some individuals who support him. Coletta is an honor student, so Chianen wonders why she's protecting the city. Will is on the verge of quitting school, but she says it doesn't matter since he's the kindest person she has ever encountered and puts in far more effort than any of them have. After a brief period of shock, Sherlyn bursts into laughter, realizing that no matter how good or diligent Will is, it won't change the fact that he's incapable of using magic, and that Will would never be able to become a magic merchant without magic. After that, Sherlyn and his pals leave Will alone for the time being. Coletta then tells Will as they are locking together not to worry about what Professor Edward and Sherlyn were saying because they were only trying to humiliate him. And Will responds that it's okay because it's actually not possible for him to use magic, and moreover, he counts himself lucky that a lovely lady like Coletta wanted to spend out with him despite their hatred. When he says this, Colette becomes embarrassed and tells Will that she won't want to go out with him. Will responds that he was only stating the obvious since he finds Colette to be quite attractive. Colette pushes Will away for a little while in order to collect herself and think properly after being even more humiliated by this and almost falling in love with him riding. She can't allow herself to fall in love so quickly because she's technically immobilized. When she finally gathers herself, she turns to face Will, but he's absorbed in gazing up at the sky since it is really the inhabitants who once inhabited this planet. So out of perpetual terror of the celestial hosts that reigned above them, to resist the celestial and provide everyone with access to the light of the sky, no mage alive today has ever been able to live up to the title of Magia Vanda, which was given to these wizards, who became recognized by that name. They are considered the pinnacle of magic. Will responds that he's certain that the Ice Maiden Albosvina is keeping watch over them, as he can see that she is now viewing them from her window at the top of the earth. Colette doubts whether she is. When Will was younger, Elfaria was his childhood friend, and she used to tell him everything she knew about the sun and the moon from her books. Hope that one day they might both become magical wonders and be able to view the sun together. So she was especially delighted to watch the sunset, which is reputed to be incredibly beautiful. Will said that he would help her become a magical wonder, but even though it was only a child's promise, Elfaria put a lot of effort into making it happen, and before long her efforts had brought her to the summit of the tower. Will, on the other hand, is making every effort to climb the tower despite having absolutely no talent to fulfill this pledge, even if it's only a hallucinatory dream. But even his unwavering resolve doesn't stop him from breaking under criticism like Cookie. Although Will requested Professor Walker to cool down a little, Walker is understandably upset since Will entered the dungeon once more, even though he knew it was hazardous, and went all the way down to the 7th floor. Will begs for forgiveness and requests to receive his additional credit immediately, since he fears that at this rate he would end up killing himself. The worker is still upset with him for entering the dungeon by himself, but Will earned 2 extra points as he was able to return with evidence that he has slain a malicious guard. Will Walker prepares the papers while Will celebrates with his pet, and he asks him if he still hasn't given up on becoming a magic wonder, and he would require a total of 7,200 credits to do so. These credits are often earned by students in courses like writing, classics, and spell work. But as Will is incapable of using magic, he will never be able to obtain any credit from spell work. Will intended to make up for it by working extra in praxis because he knew this beforehand, but Walker has already informed him that it is very difficult to earn enough credits to pass via praxis alone. Will wants to cling to the hope that he can live up to his promise of becoming a magic wonder even if he knows his odds are small. In any event, he informs Will that if he doesn't start accumulating more credits, he might not even graduate in the distant future. Walker has learned that Will did not receive any credit on his most recent exam, therefore, in order to avoid failing, he needs to obtain 4 more credits by the end of this week. Will is surprised to see that he only has 2 remaining days before the deadline. Having run out of choices, he starts going over his notes in the hopes of finding a creature that he can kill that will earn 4 credits. Wagner tells Will that there is a monster called Baskerville on the 6th floor of the dungeon, and because Will hasn't submitted it yet, he may earn the necessary credits by killing it. Despite Will's intense desperation to discover something, Wagner doesn't want the push for Will to enter the dungeon. Will rushes to hug Wagner to express his gratitude for all of his assistance he has provided, but Wagner warns him. Unfortunately, Chiene overheard the entire exchange while outside Wagner's office, so he knows that Will intends to murder a Baskerville in the dungeon. Being a genuine hater, he intends to go down there and kill it first. As a result, Will won't be able to earn enough credits to finish the course. Will shows up on the 6th floor of the dungeon sometime later, having previously battled at Baskerville. He is feeling confident and believes he will easily prevail. Will's pet doesn't think it is a good idea for him to approach this with such confidence, but Will assures him that he won't burn to char like he did the last time if he takes precautions against the Baskerville's flame breath. Nevertheless, he is relying on Kiki to detect the Baskerville. Chiene and his cronies, meanwhile, are determined to see to it that Vil is expelled from the institution because his body despite Vil just as much as they want to murder the Baskerville before sending a message to Will by beating him up. They all agree on the idea, but one of his pals questions if it is really safe for them to be this far down in the dungeon when there are only 3 of them. Chiene responds angrily, claiming he is more than capable of keeping them all safe. Chiene continues to harbor an internal hatred for Will, but he works on as others don't want to upset him. The sheer sight of Will offends Chiene. He believes that someone unable of doing magic shouldn't even be trying to talk about the magic wonders. When they are far into the dungeon, Chiene turns to tell his bodies what to do, but before he can do so, one of his pals is struck so hard that he slams into a wall. There is no way that guy could have lived. As he confronts the beast, Chiene maintains his composure while the other man begins to lose it. Will instinctively knows that someone must be in danger when he hears the guy screams, so he runs over to assist. Though the sound he just heard suggests they can't be too far away, he finds it hard to believe there are other individuals this far in the dungeon. Will ducks behind the wall as soon as he sees all of the yelling and notices that despite the monster's assault being effective, someone is frantically firing fireballs at it while urinating. Will understands that the creature is a sentinel of evil and he is worth 10 points. It makes no sense for the sentinel to come up to the 6th floor. Its home should be further down in the dungeon, and Will has never seen one in person before. More significantly, Chiene is the target of his attack, and because the sentinel is unaffected by any of his spells, he is losing ground. Will immediately wants to go help Chiene, but he pauses to consider his options before making a decision. Why should Will feel obligated to help Chiene when he has been harboring hate for him since the beginning? Now that no one would find out if he simply let him die, he's going to close his eyes and pretend it never happened. Well, before he does, he remembers something from his conversation with Sorcerer. She gave him a set of goggles as a present because she thought that Will was courageous and compassionate. Will still wears the same goggles. He must set aside his personal grievances in order to save her, otherwise he won't be the same guy. Sorcerer has always admired. Will lunges forward, blocking the sentinel's blow with his sword, just as it is going to murder Chiene simultaneously back at the academy. Walker receives a frantic call from Professor Edward informing him that Tiene and his companions had all entered the dungeon together without authorization. Walker takes his bed and asks what floor Tiene went to because he wants Walker to use his familiar to find them before they kill themselves. When Edward responds that they should be on the 6th level, Walker is happy to hear that Will is with them and that he can defeat any monster that attacks as long as he is present. Using his crystal ball, he explains to Edward what Will is now doing, and he's really dominating. He goes all out with the Sentinel. Will cuts off the Sentinel's finger in an instant, and as the Sentinel attempts to respond, he backs away to make room and stops the strike in mid-air. Will then rushes in again, and this time the Sentinel is unable to keep up with him. So before he knows what's happening, Will has already gotten the better of it and stabbed it in the shoulder. Will is so strong that Tiene finds it hard to believe what he's witnessing. Walker tells Edward, who is still in disbelief, that Will is an incredible exception. He has superhuman strength beyond what damage could ever hope to attain. He possesses a physique more resilient than a Nokia phone and very sharp observational abilities that, even after one attack, enable him to decipher an enemy's plan and devise countermeasures. Will is able to anticipate the Sentinel's next move and parry it, severing the Sentinel's arm in the process. The Sentinel attempts to slash him again, but Will attempts not to be able to explore magic with his sword. He can more than make up for it. Will takes the Sentinel's sword in one hand, while the letter is in agony, and is ready to kill him once and for all. In desperate move, the Sentinel blasts off a plasma burst. Will, however, declares victory with a single, far more successful swipe of his sword, slicing the Sentinel in half. After all is said and done, Will approaches Sion to see how he is doing. Sion still harbors resentment toward Will because Will saved his life, but he bites his tongue. Edward won't tolerate magic, much less being more powerful than pupils with magic. Thus, even after seeing the entire fight and Will's ability, he still hates Will more. Edward storms out of the Walker's office, and although Walker is happy that Will saved Sion, he is nevertheless upset with him for putting himself in danger. But once more, he prevailed over the creature, earning Will 10 points for eliminating the Sentinel.